Hi everyone, this is Neel, Raithatha, consultant audiologist and director of Clearmax. Thank you for joining me in another very interesting case. It's of a patient who I actually saw today, and I was initially going to upload a different video. I've got so many great videos to upload, guys, so do stay tuned over the next week or so. But I just needed to upload this because it's one that really got my head scratching. And as you can see, this patient's got all this white debris and it's coated on a rock solid layer of skin. It's almost like cement, especially this section here. So when I was positioning my suction tip on the surface, it was just glancing off. It was almost like they had an exposed bone and the suction tip was glancing off the bone. But this is not bone, it's a thickened layer of skin. So let me give you the backstory. This patient, and I've got her notes in front, so I'm just kind of referring back to that. As a child, so they're in their 60s, so as a child, they remember having an infection in this right ear, and that was accompanied by bleeding. And they also remember as a child, they were always being prescribed nasal drops. And for as long as I can remember, they've always had reduced hearing in their right ear and also long-standing tinnitus. So tinnitus is in their right ear, so it's unilateral. So tinnitus is a sound, in this case, that originates within the ear of the patient's right ear. So it's not an external sound that they're hearing, it's something internal. And they suffer from chronic earwax impaction in their right ear. And for the last couple of years, they've been having ear candling performed every 6 weeks. But more recently, they upped the ante a bit and were having it performed every 3 weeks because the right ear was constantly blocked and it wasn't clearing. Because the ear candling wasn't successful, they eventually went to their GP and they underwent ear irrigation, and they found it quite an uncomfortable experience because some of this debris that I removed, this crusted skin, it was almost like shards of glass. It was not only rock solid, but it was sharp around the edges. So they found it quite uncomfortable, and they were told that not all of it was removed. So I think they went back to ear candling and a few days later, and they also developed an infection. So we don't know the cause and effect. Was the infection as a result of ear candling, or was it due to the irrigation that they had performed a few days before? So they went back to the GP. I don't think they saw the GP. They said they didn't see the GP, but it was another healthcare provider within the practice who examined the ears and said they've got white debris in their right ear, not white. And they were, again, I'm only going from what the patients told me, they were advised to book in for another irrigation appointment a week later after using drops. They took a swab of their right ear, and they also advised them that they had earwax in their left ear. Now, the swab results came back and it came back clear. It came back completely negative. So all this stuff here, apparently it's not infection. So the patient didn't want to have irrigation performed. So they did some research, found myself on YouTube, I think it was, and they booked themselves in. Now, I started with their left ear because we were told there's no infection or no white debris was earwax. So we cleaned it out. And this patient has got very sensitive ears. And I think it's just because of all the stuff that they've had occurred in their ears as a child. And also the ear candling, that's not, some people find it pleasant actually, but it can be uncomfortable. So I was a bit, when I did the right ear, I thought, oh, this is going to be, because the left side was really straightforward. I'm not sure if I've uploaded it, but it was literally done within 30 seconds, but they were quite a sensitive patient. So I was worried about this side because this is far more complex. But they were fine. I think they've never had professional earwax removal done before, so they're just a bit nervous. They don't know what to expect, and they kind of knew their ears were quite bad. The right side. So I put some olive oil spray in there. It just wasn't going to touch this. So as you can see now, I've put some hydrogen peroxide. So I had a choice, hydrogen peroxide or sodium bicarbonate drops. Now, whilst I was in Australia, I did speak to an ENT there, and a lot of the specialists that came to our clinic. And hydrogen peroxide in Australia is used quite a lot in patients with active ear infections. So I don't know if this is still infected, although the swab came back clear. I mean, I'll come back to what the white debris can be in a moment. And even if they've got a perforation, the patient doesn't report a perforation, but I just don't know what's going on here. So I had a choice between sodium bicarbonate and hydrogen peroxide. So I used hydrogen peroxide on this occasion, and it worked really, really well actually for this. It really softened the skin and it came out almost in one piece at the moment. So I know what you guys are wondering, what is this white debris? So it could be fungal, but as I said, this patient had an ear swab and it came back clear. They had antibiotic ear drops. Now in the UK, commonly is an antibiotic spray that's prescribed. It used to be called Optimize, but they've changed the name. I think they just list the key ingredients. There's probably a legal reason, but it's dexamethasone, which is a steroid, which reduces inflammation. Neomycin, which is an antibiotic, which inhibits the kind of reproduction of pathogenic bacteria, or any bacteria really, and acetic acid. But they mentioned having a drops. Now, if it's a drops, it's most likely to be antibiotic ear drop called ciprofloxacin. There is other ones available, like gentazone drops, for example, which contain gentamicin. But with ciprofloxacin, my auntie's had that a few times, it does leave a white residue. I think it's a drying agent. But this is quite extensive. I've never had people use ciprofloxacin with that much coverage of the white debris. But that's a plausible explanation. But another plausible explanation is when you undergo ear candling, and I did a whole video to debunk the myth, and I got quite a lot of abuse actually over it, especially I think it was on TikTok. But I recorded it completely live, unedited, and I had 2 test tubes, one with harvested wax and the other one was completely clear, no wax. Put the candle in both, and I zoomed in. You can obviously see the happy ear candle wasn't suctioning out the wax on the test tube, and the wax was quite loose in there. And when I came to unraveling the candle, actually the candle that was in the test tube with no wax had more debris inside. So people are often fooled and mistaken to believe the debris inside the candle is actually earwax. It's not. It's a completely different color. It's actually the hot beeswax that the candle is made out of. So because the candle is hollow, it burns from the top and it falls in. And a lot of these hoppy ear candles, I call it hoppy, I shouldn't, because I'm going to call it ear candles. I think the term hoppy has just become synonymous, but the hoppy tribe in North America actually took some of the manufacturers to court because they didn't want their name to be associated with the candles. In any case, that's just some trivial knowledge if ever you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that's the last question. You've got a bit of, you can give me half the money now. So where was I? So yeah, the candles that I had actually had a filter. So when I read about it, the filter at the bottom where it goes in the ear, it was to stop the hot beeswax at the top where it was lit, falling down the hollow candle and going into the ear. But if you've got that filter, how is wax going to go up the filter again? But interestingly, in that video, and it's the first time I've become aware of it, both test tubes, it had this really white residue, debris, smoky debris that collected. In fact, the test tube, I tried to clean it out. It just wasn't going to clean it. It actually permanently stained it. And I showed the patient the video. So it could also be that white debris, because they've had so much ear candling done recently, that's the smoky debris from all the smoke kind of coming up the candle. Who knows? I don't know. That's the thing. So we've referred this patient to ENT. Now, they've got another interesting finding. So the skin is really macerated. They've had a lot going on. This ear's almost been butchered with all the candling and the irrigation. So there might be an ulceration at the base of the ear canal near the eardrum. I tried to remove as much debris as possible, but I wasn't able to peel any more skin, but it's lifted. It's a bit inflamed around the edges. This skin is macerated. I'm trying to peel as much out. It's just not ready to be peeled. But although the eardrum's intact, it's dull, it's vascularis, it's inflamed, it's slightly bulged. The hammer bone, the main bone, at the top, you should have this kind of ball sphere appearance. That's eroded in this patient. And also the top part of the bone of the ear canal, the scutum, is also eroded. And it's left them with what we call an autoatechotomy. I'm not going to have enough time to explain it all, but the bone can erode when the eardrum is sucked in, and they've got nasal obstruction. Really, it was very evident today in the right nostril. So it's blocked the eustachian tube. It's meant no air behind the eardrum. It's created a vacuum. The eardrum's been sucked in, and the sucked in eardrum can constrict the blood vessel, supplying the blood to that bone, the short process of the malleus and the scutum. But it can also cause osteoclasts, specialized bone cells, to erode the bone. It's called bony remodeling. I'll explain that more later. Take care. Bye.